right then. Well, the first thing that I'm going to say, I'm actually going to say two big thank yous. The first one is to our audience watching or listening anywhere around the world. I really appreciate you guys tuning into the latest episode of Simply Inspired Presenting Champions. This is episode 560, I believe, or thereabouts. So it's a special episode, and thank you guys for staying with me this long, the past 5, 6 years, whatever it's been. Very, very surreal to say that. And the second big thank you is to today's guest, who I am very, very honored to welcome to the show. Today, we welcome Taylor Jones, the first and former light heavyweight champion with Armored MMA. Today, we're going to be finding out about this incredible sport that is not only brutal but also beautiful and highly skilled as well. And it carries a massive amount of history, historical significance. Taylor is also a host of Spill the Mead podcast, I believe, talking about mythology. So we will find out more about that. We will find out more about what drew him into this incredible sport and hopefully raise some more awareness, let's say, of this remarkable combat sport. So I don't forget entirely because it's the end of my day here and it's the beginning of Taylor's. So I don't forget. My book is now out on Amazon as well. The Greatness Within, Live a Life Less Ordinary. So if you want to grab your copies there, it's a compilation of interviews like this for inspiration. So I think that's everything covered. And Taylor, my friend, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. And man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. The same for me. And like I said, before we started recording, I appreciate your patience because we were talking about this last year and everything. And so the fact that you've kind of stayed with me to finally get this done is awesome as well. Now, we will talk about the past, the present, the future, a little bit of everything. But I've got to
Everything.
say, man, you've got an awesome collection of weapons
Yeah.
on the wall behind you there. I love it. Absolutely. What we got there, you've got axes, you've got swords, you've got everything. So tell us a little bit about that. Do you have a big collection of weapons in your home?
Yeah. So this is my home. And these weapons behind me are the ones that are mine. I use them personally. I have a whole armory of axes and swords and shields and pole axes and halberds and just a ton of weapons that we have at the gym that we use as a team. These are my personal ones. I even have a couple other personal ones out there too, but um, yeah, these all have been used. This one was used in Spain in the World Championships in 2023. This is my shield. This girl goes with me for all the cage fights. She's been with me for all of them, and that special. She got some serious battle scarring going on it too. It's pretty good. Just
Wow, that is so cool. That is
yeah.
so cool.
These
Okay.
these are used for melees, and then the swords I'll use for the cage fights and the one on ones. Yeah, and the armored MMA.
Yeah. Well, that is very cool. Just to get the ball rolling, because obviously I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this awesome part of your collection. Okay, so I mean, what happened? Were you born in the wrong century, do you think? Or I mean, what kind of,
Man, I
what kind
don't know. Right? It feels like it, especially when I watch all the movies about everything. I'm like, whew, feels like I should. That feels like I should be there. I don't know. You just, yeah, 100%. Growing up, the first time I saw a sword, a knight, you're just like fully obsessed, completely. The first time I had a knight toy, or saw one in a movie or something like that. It was just that was it. I wanted to know everything about it and everything about what they were doing and why. And so, yeah, from as early as my memory allows, I have been obsessed with just knights and anything medieval, actually.
Okay, that's very, very
Mm.
cool. Well, all right, we'll talk more about that. I mean, we'll move around
Yeah,
in time
yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit. But I just like to say, just getting things warmed up. I mean, it's very cool. Okay, so going back in time for a little bit, when you were growing up, and before you were doing Armored MMA, were you doing any other kind of sports? I mean, were you an athletic individual with maybe like football, wrestling, some other kinds of things? I mean, you look quite athletic, but I never assumed these things. Maybe it was something that came to your life later. I don't know. Let's just talk a little bit about your early sporting, and I guess where you're from for anyone who doesn't know, and just a little bit about your upbringing would be really cool, please. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, so I'm born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, and yeah, I grew up playing sports my whole life. My dad's a basketball coach, so he was a basketball coach my whole life too. And just having that kind of athletic household, you get a learned sense of discipline early on that kind of gets instilled in you. So yeah, growing up playing all the sports, football, basketball, baseball, tennis, um, all of it, swimming, soccer, everything. And then when I got to high school, just kind of stuck to football mainly. But that was it, really. I did not do any martial arts. I didn't do any, any kind of combat sports or anything like that until I found armored combat. And so that, like going when I found armored combat, I came off the couch. So there was like a little break from when I stopped playing football to doing armored combat, but there was still that itch, that competitive itch in me. And so like, yeah, I'd say just I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, we we pretty much just
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, that's the
yeah,
beginnings of
fuck, I got
the
lost
beginning.
there. I don't know what the
No,
fuck.
don't worry. I mean, you're reliving great moments, and
Yeah.
champ. The reason I bring up topics like that is basically just to show people that we find our passions in different ways. Basically, different
Mm,
people find their passions in different ways. There's not any one road to what you want to do in this life, and different people find it at different times and things like that. So when
right,
there's
right,
people
right.
to this, whether they're going to do armored MMA, whether they're going to do something completely different, the lesson is still there, that you have found your authentic passion in life. And I just think that's really cool because
Man, yeah.
being your authentic self the way you are is really cool as well, and we'll talk more about that. So anyway, okay, so these different sports, very cool, football, everything. So when
Right.
you found armored combat, you went into it. How did you find it? Because you were telling me just now about the whole, you always had a fascination with swords and things, but specifically when people are recreating, that time in history and
Mhm.
fighting like this, when did you first come across that concept specifically?
Yeah, so in 2018, in the middle of 2018, I had just moved from New Orleans to Houston, and just was on YouTube watching YouTube videos, as I do, as a history nerd does, when you look up all kinds of battles, historical events, things like that, and just like the algorithm, it knew me, so it sent me I saw this video of a world championship being had in Portugal, and the second I saw this video, and I was hooked. I knew it. I just knew this is it. This is the calling. Like, I was made for this right now, and immediately after seeing this video on YouTube, it was a little Vice Sports clip. It was like not long, but it was well done. And I'm like, this is really insane. The people are out here doing it. It was world championship, like hundreds of fighters. And so I was like, this is being done. I need to be doing it too. Immediately got in touch with the people who run the league in the US, and there was nobody in Houston, no team or anything like that. So just from seeing that video on YouTube to 6 months later, starting a team in Houston is kind of the way that went. Just along that ball. So yeah, I saw it on YouTube and just got hooked immediately, and went to go find everybody who was doing it online on Facebook. Is where I ended up getting in touch with everyone.
Okay, okay, cool. So
Yeah.
that was kind of like finding your tribe kind of thing as well. I mean, not only finding your calling, but finding your kind of, other people who are interested. Okay, and 6 months,
Yeah.
that's pretty fast. So, I mean, people are, well, there's a few different things I want to talk about here, but first of all, the training aspect. I mean, during that 6 months, and you have to also bear with me because I don't even know about this. I've seen obviously the competitions, the fights, and everything, but in terms of the behind the scenes, I mean, how are you training? Like, are you training with the armor on, or like, how does it work on a sort of getting ready, particularly during that first 6 months that you were saying about? But this can include the present day as well, I think, just
Okay.
training in.
During that 6 months, I joined uh the armored combat, but there was no team out here. So like during the 6 months of like when I joined to when we got the team started was just still just kind of working out on my own, doing a little jujitsu and different things that I could like get my hands on, some martial arts, some kickboxing and things like to get my body back to operating again. And it was only a matter of just like waiting for other people to want to do the sport in Houston also for the team to kind of start, because the 6 months wasn't me waiting on me wanting to start. It was just there finally like another guy wanted to do it in Houston and we both started the team. So it was just a matter of like eventually like another person joining, and then it's just kind of we got the ball rolling, and through social media and other things like that has grown. But the training itself, man, we go into I so for these fights, for these tournaments, or even the armored MMA cage fights, the professional level, like the big ones, we have just like any MMA, any professional combat athlete, we go straight into fight camp the second we know about the fight. If it's 12 weeks out or 3 weeks out, we're going in. Like most of the time, our fighters are staying in shape like year round. So like if you know of a fight 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, you can still take it and not have to jump into fight camp. We're already kind of in one. But what fight camp includes is 6 days a week, one rest day, active rest, still, but you're wrestling, you're doing judo, you're doing kickboxing, you're doing grappling, then you're also doing your endurance training, your conditioning, cardio also, like cardio and conditioning, we just do it together pretty much. And then yeah, a lot of it's done in armor, a lot of it's done out of armor too. So you're doing a lot of the same fighting that you're going to do in armor, but on the wrestling mat with like the foam swords and the foam armor and things like that, so you can get a lot of reps, because once you put the armor on, yeah, there's like a time limit of the amount of reps that you can get, you know. So to be able to learn those skills, you got to do them out of armor first, and then yeah, we put it on, and we just try and make it feel as if you're not wearing anything. That way you can move just like you would move as if you're fighting with nothing on. That's the end goal. Doesn't always look like that, but that's the goal.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, it's a very unique skill set. So, okay, so also during that time, I mean, you mentioned there, excuse me, you mentioned there about you were waiting, there was this one other guy and stuff. So you're basically like a sort of a pioneer of this sport in a way, in at least in your state or your city kind of thing, because you're getting more people involved.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've helped this sport to grow? I mean, not only at that time, but also since then, because you're kind of obviously
Yes.
becoming champion. We'll talk about that, but you're one of the faces of this. Am I
That
correct in saying that?
that kind of yeah, and that kind of fell into me just starting to post on social media, working out and different things like that. Some highlight reels of some of the tournaments and stuff like that kind of just got me posting online, and that ended up, like yeah, if you're good at what you do, the people are going to find you. You're going to be watched, and then you have to accept that leadership role and kind of yeah, lead the way, pave that way like a pioneer would. I definitely wouldn't. I didn't join with the intention of being a pioneer or anything. I just wanted to like join the sport and participate and have a good time doing it. The way I am and the person I am though, like I like to, if I love it, I really do it. And so ended up like for sure after a while opening the gym in Houston, and just becoming that like location and yeah, that area for everyone in Houston. And I train people online too. A lot of people across the country, get in touch with people across the world too. It's just not necessarily like personally training them online, but just staying in touch, like, and giving advice when people ask. Just always an open book to help, and I can see it happening. I can see the fighters across the world like getting better. The people that I'm helping, like just with little bits of advice here and there and all that too. But yeah, but one of the things that we do with the fight camp though, we're training. You're training multiple times a day too. So you could wake up in the morning and train, then you got to go back to rest, eat, replenish, get that hydration and food back in you so that you can train just as hard, in the middle of the day and then at night too. So like they're like minimal two training sessions a day during training camp, but there are like 3 days that you're doing three training sessions a day because you're having a sparring session at the end of the night too, where you're putting it all together in a live setting, against your teammates. So it's not as live, but you're still, yeah, you're still getting after it.
Wow, that is very cool. That is very cool insight because people are very curious about behind the scenes, which we'll talk more about. Okay,
Mm,
so pioneering, very cool. Now I know I really get the vibe that obviously you really love this, as we've already talked about that, and you're doing it for the love. But nonetheless, I mean, did you in those early days ever have the expectation of becoming a champion, becoming successful, becoming well known, and any of this type of thing? I mean, like now we're doing these interviews and we're thousands of miles, and you're famous in this sport,
that
but
that's
well known.
something I never expected.
You never
That's something I would have never expected. When I joined the sport, like any sport that I joined with the intention to be a competitive athlete at the top level and, try and be champion at whatever it is that I'm doing. So 100% had the intention of doing that when I joined and competing and winning, but did not plan on becoming any kind of household names. You can't say that I'm like massively famous, but like to be known outside of the state of Houston, or outside of the state of Texas, just for what I do, to me, that's just insane. It's an incredible feeling and like something that I was never prepared to do when I joined. So those are surreal feelings. Armored MMA didn't exist when I joined the sport, armored combat. The professional level cage fighting is about 3 years old now, 4 years old now. So that's fresh and brand new. And when that came about, I saw that and was like, that's what that's the next part that I need. That's me right there.
100%. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, this is the other thing that's really important is to kind of educate people, let's say, because all of this is getting bigger, everything that you do
Right.
in different aspects. And my hope is, for example, what is a good example? Say MMA itself, the normal
Mhm.
version, kind of when that first came out, people were like, what is this and what's going on? And then,
Exactly.
look at how big it is now. And I think the same thing is happening with your sport. But I would like to educate people on the differences here because you've got obviously the cage fights and everything. And as you say, that's quite new. Excuse me. But then you've also got the other versions, and there's like different kinds of competitions. So I've seen the videos, but you're very deeply involved in this. So can you educate
Yeah.
myself, I fully admit, and our audience on the different sort of divisions or the different types of competitions
Yes.
that
Yes.
we have, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. So the sport that I joined in 2018 is called Boo Hurt. And that is a sport. Think of it. There are team fighting. So you have 5 on 5, 10 on 10, 12 on 12. 16 on 16. These are the different team fight divisions that you have. Then you also have duels like one-on-one sword fighting, sword and shield, long sword, sword and buckler, and those are strictly point one-on-one point based, like a boxing match would be. They're counting the strikes of the blade, and that's how you score during that. They have time rounds. So you have those divisions. It's kind of like a track meet when you go to a tournament where they have different events. There are everybody's fighting in armor, and you have your melee where in the 5-on-5, the 10-on-10, the 12-on-12, your main the win the way you win is to get the other team on the ground without going down yourself. So whoever is standing at the end of that round is the winner. um in the duels, the one-on-ones, they have a time limit per round, and they're just counting the strikes that the sword lands. The people that are judging these fights are very good at it. They can see if a blade lands flat or if it hits the edge, and they're counting it if it's like a proper sword strike, those kind of things. Now, when you take that like tournament style where a weekend you're fighting melees and duels and all this stuff, throughout a course of a weekend, you'll 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 have medals, and you'll have your gold, bronze, and or you have your podium winners and everything like that at the end of that for each competition and things like that. Now, the armored MMA professional cage fighting stemmed out of the one-on-one timed rounds where, um in this, you're allowed to punch, kick, sword strike. You take each other down. You're allowed a certain amount of time to fight on the ground too. So fighting on the ground, is important skill set to have too, along with just all of it. So the professional cage fighting, it kind of stemmed out of the tournaments that were having this, you know, conglomerate of fighters were like, well, let's see who wants to be the best of the best. And so Armored MMA, they took that same style that UFC has, where they're like, we want to take the best fighters and put them against each other in that one cage that everybody can see and witness. And it became something that, for like an average person, you can understand it a lot better than when you look at a Boohurt tournament and see all this stuff going on. It's hard for a spectator. But like the armored MMA, okay, that's like very self-explanatory in the sense it's armored cage fighting. That's self-explanatory. You're like, okay, I get it. And then the fact that it's just a little less gruesome than regular combat sports right now, where you actually see their face getting destroyed, or the bodies get beat up. Like, when you have the armor on, you kind of, you can like separate from the like human inside when you're watching it, and know like the armor does work. So when they get up, like sometimes you get bloody, you get bruised up, but it's not like the same thing. You're so much. I feel more protected for sure, doing it. So I feel like the spectators are like, you just get more general spectators to be okay with watching it because it's not so like gruesome. So like when it comes to that, the people that fight in Boohurt, train extra hard to go into this professional level of fighting in armored MMA.
Absolutely, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what you're saying there about the appeal and everything, and then the fan friendly aspect and everything, it's amazing. It's an amazing insight. Okay, so I have to ask you something here that you will have experienced many times. When you get hit with the sword strike, I mean, how would you describe the feeling? Because a lot of people, including myself, I mean, been hit with like a bare fist, a glove, a kick, or all
Mm-hmm.
the normal type of stuff, but never with a sword. So if you had to sort of put that feeling of the strike into words, how would you explain that?
it feels like getting hit with a jab. Like it feels like getting hit with a jab in boxing or something like that. But if you a jab if you had headgear on, honestly, it's not crazy impactful. It makes the helmet ring a little bit. You kind of, you can feel it. It lets off a smell like someone lit a match in your helmet sometimes, but like it doesn't necessarily hurt, you know. You just know it's there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something people should try for themselves, but at the same time, it gives them a little bit of an insight. Okay,
And that's in the
so
helmet though. So if the sword
yeah,
hits you and it doesn't hit the armor, that hurts. Like that metal hitting your bone, things like that will like break them. Those hurt. But if I'm talking about just in the helmet, like the helmet's pretty protective there. But yeah, taking a sword strike, like, oh my god, the championship fight that I won a couple years ago, the inside of my entire right leg was a massive, just black and blue bruise of from getting because he was chopping the inside of my leg up with the sword strikes the whole time. Because he knew I like to leave my leg further out. So he just went after it the whole time. And it works. Like, oh my God. It's like equivalent to getting leg kicked in MMA like a bunch, eventually the leg stops working, it turns off and you like the nerves stop working and so it does affect you. Just not in the face as much, which is funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes sense though. I mean, I
Right.
totally get what you mean, depending on the area of the body and everything. I get it. Okay, but obviously with the head strikes thing, this is another thing we need to mention now. It sounds safer because there's this controversy that goes around with like professional boxing and the concussions and all of that. Football. I mean, the concussions.
Mhm.
And then, you get these people doing like the bare knuckle boxing and all of this stuff now, seeing as you were saying about gruesomeness, and then you get more cuts, but arguably less head injuries and blah blah blah. And this
Mhm.
debate goes on. But in your sport, what you're talking about now, it sounds like your actual brain is quite well protected indeed because of the helmet. Do you think that makes it a very safe or relatively safe sport to participate in at least in combat sports terms, if that makes sense?
It does, and I think so too. I think so. I think it is safer to do than other combat sports because of that. Because the helmet, we have them with modern concussion foam on the inside with the cloth lining and everything, so they are protected. Concussions happen, but um, to get knocked out in this is so unlikely, and would most likely be an accident, more or less than just straight force from being punched or something like that. So really, like, head injuries, definitely your head's a lot safer. Your face is a lot safer. Not so many scars, not so many cuts, and also like not so much the concussion part. Because yeah, the helmets work.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, I'm a believer that, by the way, that with combat sports, whatever people want to do, as long as they know the risks, is cool. It's
Absolutely.
100%. But that aspect with the safety, and it's very topical at the moment as well. I mean, obviously, the other thing, by the way, is you've got the whole slap fight thing now as well, and I mean, there's just so much types of stuff, and so the debate is very, very topical. So, you
Yes.
know,
Oh
um,
man.
that drew an interesting response. Go on, champ. Tell me your. I mean, I wasn't even going to go into this topic when I said
Oh
this.
no, every slap fighting just makes me like I'm like, oh my god. And just like the head injuries that have to come out of that are insane. I
Yeah.
can't.
Oh yes.
Oh
Oh
my
yes.
gosh. But like you said, if I'm always gonna be like, I'm never gonna hate on somebody who's putting they know what they're doing. They're putting it on the line. It's not like they're being tricked into slapping each other. They're signing up for it, just like all of us. So, but oh my god, that's something I could not do. Just I hate
Yeah.
getting hit. Like, and oh man, just like let it happen and you just get knocked out. Oh man.
It's pretty crazy. pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, the same as you. I'm not criticizing that because people want to do what they want to do.
No, no.
But I don't know. I have sort of mixed feelings. But anyway, coming back to you anyway, personally, and you know your sport. So that makes sense with the head protection, and it's very important because you know, like I said before, this sport carries a great deal of historical significance. You know,
Right.
it's got more depth in some ways than some of these other things we're talking about. So, you know, it's important to mention the safety so that people can get on board. Obviously, it
Right.
is still a combat sport, but you know, the brain, and you're a good ambassador for the sport because you have a good brain, and you know, it still works. So therefore, you know, you can, you know, it's good to talk
I
about it.
hope so.
Definitely, definitely, I think so. And we'll talk more about the
Yeah.
mythology and a couple of the intellectual things later.
Yes,
But
sir.
before we do, in terms of you know becoming a champion in this, as I mentioned, or I mean, there's a few different there's kind of two different sides to this because I would like to talk about some of your first successes. In the sport in terms of when or that time when you first started having bigger wins, bigger
Mhm,
successes,
mhm,
and that kind of leads into becoming a champion and
mhm.
specifically, you know, the story of that, but specifically how it actually feels because it's one thing to watch the fight, but I'm always curious to ask people, well, what actually goes through your mind in the moment where that actually, you know, becomes a reality. So there's a you know, it's quite a big question, but let's talk about that process to becoming champion and everything there, please. Thank
Man,
you.
the process to becoming champion.
Yeah, let's start there. Yeah.
We got so being early on, it just it kind of that journey fell into place from the I didn't know that I would be champion in a year from the moment that the I stepped into the cage, the first one a year before winning the title. Did not have and it did not know that it would be that soon or when it would be or anything like that. But absolutely, from the moment I stepped into the cage, my mind was set on just beating everybody in front of me and being the best. Something changed when you walk into that cage the first time in your mind, even though it's just like a little bar, you know, it looked like Mortal Kombat back in the day with the full like they made the cage out of metal rebar. Like it was awesome, you know, such an awesome vibe to like start in. And yeah, from that moment on, it was just go as hard as I can to make this thing happen. I think from the first cage fight, from the first time I stepped into the cage and after that, the feeling of being a pioneer for this sport, I think kind of set in. I think that's when it started to like really like sink in. Like people are watching, people are following. And so like we got to set a good example here. And then from that point on, it was just keep winning. I ended up losing my next fight, but that's okay. We kept going like that. That's okay. I'm not undefeated. I've got losses, and that's something that I appreciate for more than the wins. But when you come into that year going from fight to fight to the next one to the championship fight, I think in my head, and when I look back on it, and up to now, I think it's kind of felt like it was on autopilot in a sense. If I knew what I had to do and I knew the volume of training I had to do and the intensity that I had to do it in, and it increased and it increased and it increased. But I think I was just on a little autopilot through because man, I tell you, like winning the title definitely was the proudest moment of my career to date. At that time, uh, I said to date. I don't mean today. I should have said that. That was the proudest moment up to that time. Um, and honestly, sometimes you don't winning it doesn't it felt surreal. It felt like it wasn't mine yet, in a weird way. Like I don't know if I probably put the crown on maybe like 4 times since I had it, just when people made me do it. You know what I mean? Like it's something, one of those things that kind of maybe didn't um maybe didn't accept fully yet, because I knew I still had people I gotta beat in my mind. There are fighters out there that I still need to fight and I still need to beat. In my head, I knew that it was so far from over, that this was kind of just a thing. It is a proud moment, don't get me wrong. But I think the following year after that, um, it helped me understand what I want in this, and then going through the last year of fighting to win, not fighting to obliterate. It was a different way of fighting this past year after winning the title. I wasn't fighting with that same hunger that I was fighting with when I first walked into the cage. Like, it was fighting to win, fighting to like preserve and survive, not fighting to obliterate and destroy the guy across from me at the time. So I think, and then I got hit by an 18 wheeler in April, 2 weeks before fight, and totaled the car, everything like that. I didn't have any head injuries, so I was fighting. You know what I mean? I didn't get any head injuries or anything like that, so I was fighting. I stayed fighting all year. Fought 6 times in the cage in a couple tournaments, with 9 herniated discs in my neck, back, and a messed up shoulder. So it was in my head, I think, like fighting to survive, still knowing I'm hurt, but also like still like that hunger felt not there, not there. And so coming up in October, when we got to losing that title, that was when it finally woke me up. Because I'm one of those people that have to learn things the hard way, unfortunately. So I had to learn that, the way I was fighting, the way that I was going about it, the way that my head was entering into each fight, into the cage, to get through it and survive, and win, but get through it, mainly was something that needed to change, and something big needed to happen to get me to change that. And you know um losing is the biggest lesson learner for me. So that is happened. And then a couple weeks after that, I had a back spasm that took my whole right leg out, and I was limping around, and I couldn't even walk for a couple months there. Like, and it's finally starting to, like, I can wiggle my toes and get like some movement in it and everything like that. But having that, just the combination of the injuries, the accident, to still fighting, still getting through it, knowing I'm hurt. My right shoulder, my sword arm was like barely working all year, but still made it happen. And getting through it, and then realizing after losing the title, getting hurt, losing the ability to walk for a while there, made me realize that if given the chance to get back in there, I'll regret for the rest of my life leaving that out the fight as my last fight, knowing that I wasn't leaving it all out there. It's weird to think and say, because you're like, no, you go in there and you're supposed to leave it all out there and everything. And you feel like you do sometimes. You come out the fight, you feel exhausted, you're spent. But if you've still like saved some or not. And there was a lot of fights that I did, and I know for a fact that Oof, God. I'm sweating right now getting excited about it because I just know I'm not going to be able to fight until probably September of this year, but we'll do it. I'm going to Tijuana and going to the CPI in Mexico to get stem cell therapy, and we're going to get the back and shoulder and hip and leg and everything fixed, and we can come back with a different mindset. The person that I was when I started, mm, not someone who's just trying to survive, you know.
Okay, that's an incredible story. I mean, I'm just taking it in, taking
Yeah,
everything
you
in
know,
that you said. But I mean, first of all, leaving it all in there, no regrets, that type of thing. I mean, it's very, very important. I'm a big believer in anything you do in life. Looking at yourself in the mirror, the old cliche of what looks back at you, and if you're proud of yourself,
absolutely.
like it's 100% true, 110%. And it's, those internal battles that we face are some of the hardest ones. And that leads me to something interesting that I had in mind, to bring up at some point with this, which follows on from that in my mind, is obviously the ways that you've changed as a person from the sport, but outside of the sport itself, because
Mhm, mhm.
people have a very like a tunnel vision on an athlete, and the
Right.
athlete does their sport, and that's fine. But then one of the things I think is amazing about sports in general and very valuable is it changes people in their relationships, their friendships, their other aspects of their life, separate to that. And I'm curious with that, and even more so in your case than usual, because the whole night thing has a virtuous quality. I mean, knights
Right.
in the history, they have the morality, and they have these really cool attributes,
Mhm.
which, like I say, we'll talk more about the mythology. But to put the question in a nutshell, how has this sport changed you as a person outside of the sport itself, if that makes sense?
It does, it does. Man, for one, just in a general, calm sense of, that life feels a little calmer, outside of everything that, my patience level is high. I would just your general, your self-confidence and just knowing that you can be physical, that you can do things like when you learn these skills and you put your body through these tests and learn how to just learning how to punch properly changed my life in a world of fear and anxiety of what if I don't know if I know how to do it or not. What if it happens and I need to do it kind of thing. And you're like, just learning how to do it calms you down inside. You don't even realize it. So you just like go about life a lot calmer and look back on it a month later and be like, holy crap, like I don't have you just like you lose the chip on your shoulder from doing combat sports. There's like not everybody, but there are general consensus that for me, like I'm sorry, yeah, you're right. The question for me personally, I am a much calmer person, a much more confident person, um, and just tolerant of people's. I think that, and I think that's just becoming a coach. I say tolerant of people's lack of skill in things and understanding that it's you got to nurture these things to get better at anything no matter what it is in life. And so going through those humbling experience yourself of learning a new skill in a combat sport, because you can learn a new skill but most skills aren't going to have someone like punching you and beating you up for not learning it. So in a combat world you do get humbled so much through learning anything by getting put on your ass constantly. And so by doing that, you understand this is what it takes. This is what it takes. You gotta get kind of hit. You know, you gotta be okay with hurting a little bit. and going through to get through it. And that's something that has helped me a ton with just anything in life, and being patient with myself, being patient with others, and any development of anything, and understanding. And it gives you it erases the fear of starting new things, because you know it's going to suck at first, or you know you're going to suck at it at first, and whatever it is, you just have to practice, and you just have to practice. And then when you're not getting beat up for those skills, when you're not losing, you kind of practice them a little bit better, so like those other skills outside of fighting and things like that, that you can practice and develop, and you just get better at and understand. Life isn't as serious as everybody is trying to make it. When it comes down to knighthood and morality and things like that, anybody right now, even what it looks like in the UFC with people, talking smack and sharing, these guys are knights. These guys are training their life in combat to fight in the rule set. They're not going out street fighting. These guys are combat athletes, are the most noble humans across the board, as far as just those people are the ones that you can rely on to protect the weak and innocent, and defend those kind of anybody who has been through that. Just knowing what it takes to get through it, there's like a general understanding of this humbleness that is across the board for that. So that's something cool that I like love to see in people when they come in, and just like a month after training, seeing their confidence when they walk in the gym, and seeing like their minds rewrite where they are and what they're doing, and like see them become less anxious, because that's like one of the biggest things you learn at in fighting, is becoming calm in that heat of the moment, becoming like as relaxed as you can while everything is happening, while you're getting hit, while everything's coming after you, the crowd's screaming, and it's all like making your heart race. It's supposed to, and you're supposed to stay as calm as possible. So yeah, it's one of those, it just makes life easier outside.
Absolutely, yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, being calm under pressure and everything, being calm in the
Mhm.
heat of the moment, and the level of importance people place on things, and it kind of gives you a new perspective. But everything you shared there, the compassion, the patience, the um, discipline, in the sense it takes a lot of time to learn new skills. I mean, that's a big one, I think, in today's era where people think a lot of things are very instant, and
Mhm.
obviously athletes in particular, when you get behind the scenes, it takes so many years, and people look at this and think,
Right.
oh, that person was an overnight success. And I've heard the quote from, I think, in soccer. Just differentiating from football, where one
Right.
of the players said, "It took me like 17 years, I think it was, to be an overnight
Yeah.
success," or something like that. And it's,
Yeah.
people, these type of things.
That's it.
But also, I would say that it's very healing. Being involved in sports is very healing. And what I mean by that is what you said there. When I see kids, and particularly kids, but this can be people at any age, go into a gym, and they're very shy, they're very quiet. Then they go in there, after a few weeks or a couple of months or whatever, and they've come out of the shell, and they're speaking to people, and they can handle other situations. And this kind of thing, whether they go on to fight or not, is beautiful. And the equalizing, you go into a gym, and I guess it's the same in your part of the world, but when you go into a gym, you see like criminals and cops, and
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
teachers, school teachers, and
Yeah.
accountants, construction workers, and every type of person you can think of
Everybody.
is mingling. And it's,
Mhm.
you take the supposed class thing out of there, and everybody's equal. So there's a lot of things that I think you can take into life, including what you said there about the people who really can fight basically don't look for it unless there's a good reason, and the people who have the insecurity are going out. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, you have in the US, you have the gun violence, and you have stuff. I mean, in the UK, we have more with the knives and
Knife. Yeah.
that type of stuff. But it all stems from the fact that the people couldn't. a lot of those people, I would say, are afraid to, do it properly, and so they're using a weapon, not in the context that you're using a weapon, but using a weapon in a cowardly way. So there's a lot of things that you've shared there that are really the healing power. And I think because we're going deep and we're getting philosophical now, we need to touch on the mythology aspect because you are very knowledgeable about mythology, about history. Or your show has been featured in publications about this. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that I've seen when I was pulling this together, and I don't have a really narrow question about it. I would just like you to share a little bit more about your show and your interest in mythology, so that people can check out your work in that area, and to show
Yeah.
that there's a lot more to you than just a fighter as well. So there's,
Right, right. I do look just brutish and like there isn't much more than just fighting. So on a surface level basis, I understand that totally. But no, I am a co-host of the Spill the Mead podcast, and my friend Maddie, who is my mental strength and conditioning coach, it's her podcast. And God, she for one, she's the reason that I'm able to get into every cage fight and get there. She is the one that carries me to it, and the mental strength and conditioning of every training camp, every fight. I want to quit, and she's the one that holds me up for it. So like getting to work on mythology and just do these kind of things extra with people like her is it's amazing. But the mythology is something that from just uh, just as long as I can remember being obsessed with knights, it probably came from just being obsessed with Greek mythology or any ancient mythology. Um, Growing up, my dad used to tell me the stories all the time because I would be the one that if I saw anything, I'd ask 1,000 questions, and I'd ask you to tell me the same story 1,000 times. And so, I knew the story of Perseus and Medusa and Hercules and all these guys like just kind of word for word almost from early on age, and just also like going into all the movies and anything that would come out too, so like that just oh man, from the beginning it's one of those things that I just you just really when you look into the stories too, and you get into a story like Hercules, and you're like, okay, the general consensus of Hercules. He went through the labors and became, a immortal god and conquered a lot, beat monsters, and things like that. But when you put a magnifying glass onto these guys, it's there are real life stories and like real life situations that these stories like go into and are based on, and there's so much like real history in it, and it's so fascinating to like to kind of get in and you get to decide what was real and not when you're reading the myth or when you're really researching it. And like there are these places like you see a boulder that Hercules supposedly moved over a lake to drown out a city to win a war. Like you just these places are real, but like so you just like get that little. Those one of my favorite things about getting to dive into these stories and mythology and just kind of like really really go into what why it was written, what they were seeing, maybe any I just got so fascinated by it all, just that time period and the way that they carried stories on. Oh my god, like you talk about the Iliad forever. Going to some of my favorite heroes of Achilles, Ajax, man, that's just insane. So just it's a never ending like pool of greatness that you can just like get lost in.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, something I love about these kinds of stories and mythology as well is the fact that how do I put this? Basically, in even in the modern era now, people go through a lot of the same challenges
Oh
and
my God, they
trials
are
and
so
tribulations.
relevant.
Yeah, that's the
They
thing
are
that
so
people.
relevant. They're so
Yeah,
relatable. Every person you can every myth is teaching you lessons. There are lessons in it all. It's really fun to find those two, and then see where it is. Like God, Hercules, just the story of Hercules and Percy. Like, oh my God, just when you follow it, and then they all overlap too. So like, you go over Jason and the Argonauts. Hercules was in it, and there are different places and times, and the heroes are all overlapping, and it's just so it's a really neat thing to study and learn those lessons through. Even just going through my fighting career, I can parallel it with these myths and these heroes, and kind of it always just gives you a little extra hope when you're in that depression, like, oh man, I lost. These guys lost too, and they came out hard. So like you it's fun to get a chance to like be that close to it too.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, that is, I love your passion. I mean, the world needs more people with passion in what they do, and the authenticity. And I also think it's really cool that I'm speaking to you from Cyprus, and we've got a lot of that rich Greek history. I mean, obviously Greece itself
Yeah.
has even more, but even so, it's a fascinating little coincidence. Okay, I'm glad we got a chance to mention that because I love to show that fighters are more than just tough individuals. But in,
More
in
than
your
fighting,
case,
right?
yeah, but in your case, it's even more than average. So, okay, so that's the mythology, the mental strength you touched on. So the last couple of things we'll touch on here
Yeah.
today because we're doing good, but I keep them about an hour so people can
Yeah. Yeah.
take it
Yeah.
in. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You mentioned about the future and you mentioned about the accident. You mentioned coming back in September and, this kind of thing. Um, I want to talk a little bit more about that because people can obviously, when people hear this story, they're going to be following you. They're going to be getting interested in the fighting side or the
Mhm.
mythology side. We've given that a mention. And I'm going to say, guys, definitely check out the podcast, Bill and Me, check it out. Really, really
Mhm.
good content in there. Um, but yeah, looking past September, not so much looking past it because I know you need to focus on that.
Yeah. No, but we
Getting
could
to
go
that.
past it. There's the future for
Where do you
sure.
want? Where do you want to be in that future? Say we're having this conversation, 2 years, 3 years from now. Or
Yes.
just any type of arbitrary timeline. Where do you want to be in that future? Basically, that's the question.
I would love to be the current champion when we talk in a couple years still. And absolutely, I have fighters that train out of my gym that I want them to be champion too in every way. So the more fighters that I have at my gym, training, fighting in the cage, that's the goal, is to get as many in there as I can, and then bring them all up, and to bring the fighters and the fighting across the country up, and to give people like me who didn't have a martial arts background, would have never done martial arts if it weren't for armored combat and the life-changing ness that comes with that, and so I want everyone to be able to experience and feel that, and it doesn't have to be on the professional level. The guys that come into the gym, like, not all of them are professional fighters, but they love being around it. They love learning and getting better and just competing at the tournaments and everything like that too. But to and for the sport to be continuing to grow, continuing to increase the audience and the vision on it, and just like give everybody that show they're looking for, to fight in bigger arenas, to fight in bigger stages and bigger crowds and everything like that. But to put my fighters there is the biggest goal. Also being the current champion at the time too. So that's that. But to bring my guys from our gym across the board to be known. Yeah, that's what I want. I want people to be watching them fight and go, that's one of the Houston guys just from the way that they fight, you know. And we're kind of getting that already, but that's the goal. That is the goal. Yeah, to be the
That is
best.
awesome. That is awesome to be the best. Yeah. So that is an incredible vision, you know, because it's so much bigger than just yourself personally. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like a whole movement.
Yeah.
Being the champion again, the current champion. Oh, okay, that is awesome. But then, you know, the impact that you're already having on so many other people, but will
Right.
continue to have is absolutely wonderful. And I think today, I'm sure with somebody as fascinating as yourself, we've only scratched the surface. But at the same time, we've gone into some really interesting topics that help your sport, I hope, and
Hmm.
also definitely people can use them in other areas of life. Like I said at the beginning, some of the life lessons that you've learned, even what we were talking about earlier with the resilience and all of these things. I mean, it's so cool. But if people feel drawn to you personally, you know, that they would like to connect with you, they would like to ask relevant questions, they would like to follow you, etc., because you are a pioneer, as we said
Hmm.
earlier on, the best way to do that, the best way to reach out and connect.
T Jones Armored MMA on Instagram or Taylor Jones on Facebook. That's such a hard name to find on Facebook though. So if you find T Jones Armored MMA on Instagram, then I would reach out. I'd love to help. Let's get connected. I'd share some more of my story. Anything you want to know, you know, I'm an open book.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that is something very cool as well. Is you know you're very connected to the fans and the followers of the sport, and you know authentic. I mean, I said that at the beginning. I mean it
Thank
sincerely. Just you know, just the fact that you're out there in the world, being your authentic self. And I'm going to wrap this up with something strange.
you. Yeah.
But there was a book, not so much a question, but I just want to tell you this, and then I'll have to go shortly. But there's a book published about the regrets of people before they passed away, that was written a few years ago by a nurse. And the number one was wishing that they had lived their authentic life and not the life that other people expected them to live. And what happened was this palliative care nurse compiled all of these things together because she was doing it for so many years.
Yeah.
And before people passed away, the regrets they had, there were five. You know, one of them was not working so hard. I think one of them was, um, and it's not working hard to chase your goals. It was working hard, like not spending time with your family and that kind of stuff. And there were
Mm-hmm.
several others. But the number one was that, you know, not being authentic, basically. It was like, you know, I wish I had followed whatever crazy idea I wanted
Their
to have.
own
It's like,
heart. Right.
yeah, you know, and like when I came over here and when I wrote a book and when I did all these, people said, "Oh no, no, that's not." And one or two people said, "Go for it," and the
Go
rest of the
for
people said, "Oh, I don't know." And with you, one of the things I like is you live the most authentic, you know, you're a very authentic version of yourself. But then by doing that, you encourage people to do the same. And
it.
that aspect of the whole, you know, you only live once type of thing isn't hedonism. It isn't like, oh yeah, you only live once, so you got to go party. It's like you only live once, so you've got to do the thing that you know means the most to you. And I love the fact that you represent that in the world, Taylor, and show people that they can follow their passions, even though other people might look at it and think, you know, what is that? And that's something that I want to leave you with because it's a big takeaway I've had from meeting you today.
Oh
And
man,
I
you're
think,
gonna make me cry.
no, no, well, that's something, there's a little message for you there.
No, thank you.
Authenticity is
God.
powerful. And especially in this age, you know, that we're living in, my friend, because of things like social media, it's fantastic because it connects people and all of that. But at the same time,
Mhm.
it puts pressure on people to think that,
Yeah.
you know, you've got to be this way and all of that stuff. So I
Yeah.
think that, and actually, you know, as AI and all of that stuff comes in to things, yeah, it has some benefits, but you know, we're also going to have to focus quite a bit to remain authentic and to remain, for want of a better term, soulful and sort of soul
Mhm.
connected
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
world. So, you know, things like that you represent. So I want you to take that away with you. That the
Thank you.
authenticity is something, you know, that it's been a great interview. It's exceeded my expectations
Thank
in
you.
terms of the content, but that in particular is a very powerful lesson. There's more things. I mean, there's more things you represent as a human,
Oh,
But I
thank
think that's got to be the biggest one, and it's just, it's super cool. Anyway, this
thank
side
you.
it's dark over here. It's evening time,
Yeah,
and
get
I'm
some
gonna
sleep.
I got to get some rest now because I mean, it's a normal length of day, but it's been a busy
Yeah,
day today. So I am going to get some rest. I'll send this to you when I release it, okay?
yeah,
So you can share as well, please. I would
absolutely,
appreciate that. I'll
absolutely.
give it a push around my side, get some more eyes on your sport. Keep everything growing and
Yeah,
improving. And all I can say is it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. I've really
thank.
enjoyed talking with you, really enjoyed meeting you, and I hope that you've enjoyed it
I've
even.
enjoyed it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. You have a great day, champ. All the best, and we'll keep in touch for sure. Take
You
care.
too. You too.
Thank you so much. Take
Alrighty.
care. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.